गो मॅम.
तुमचं प्रेझेंटेशन उघडा.
मॅडम लाईव्ह जातोय आता आपण.
राईट सर, आता होल्ड ऑन फॉर अ व्हाईल. रितू, यू कॅन स्टार्ट.
आता मला तुमचा फोटो दिसतोय आणि
सर,
खाली शेअर स्क्रीन येत आहे
हो
हिरवं.
सर, आता आपण करूयात. तुम्ही आता तसंच राहा. यू गो म्यूट नाव.
ओके.
रितू, you can unmute and
yes. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Team Pune chapter of IIDVL. This is our second CME, and today's focus is on postgraduate students learning. The theme is spotters, which will be useful in day-to-day practice as well as during examinations. The spotters will be followed by a quiz, the details of which will be shared after the presentations. For today's program, we have 4 eminent and experienced faculty members who will enlighten us on important topics. Before we begin with the proceedings, I invite our President, Dr. Dhanashri Bide Madam, for the welcome note. Over to you, Madam.
thank you, Ritu. Good morning, senior teachers, dear friends and colleagues. On behalf of our team of Pune chapter of IIDVL, I wish you all a very happy Ganesh festival. Today we are having one PG program. This is our first PG program. You all know that during this unprecedented COVID times, most of our students are now doing duties in COVID ward. The OPD number, that is the patients coming to dermatology OPD, it has gone down, and the teaching in different institutes is hampered because of this particular situation. So keeping this in mind, we will be now having regular activities for postgraduate students so that whatever they are missing out in the OPDs, they can learn through these activities. Today we have 4 senior and eminent teachers who will highlight different spot cases and how to approach them during the exam. Second important thing that I would like to mention here is that these spot cases are our day-to-day practice cases as well. So this is going to be useful for the practicing dermatologists as well. Today we will be launching our website, and I'm very happy to announce that Pune chapter of IIDVL now has its own website. All our important information now henceforth will be displayed on our homepage of the website. Even the registration process is through the website. We have a separate link there for the registration. The registration form will be available, and the new members can register through this website. The website also will have links of the programs that we have done, and those who probably missed the programs can join on those links and visualize those programs. So with this brief introduction, I will now hand over the proceedings of inauguration of our website to Dr. Ritu Choube.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Let us begin with the inauguration ceremony for our website. I would like to invite our seniors, Dr. DJ Patil sir, Dr. Dilip Shah sir, Dr. Yashwant Taude sir, Dr. Narendra Patwardhan sir, Dr. Sharad Mutalik sir, along with the entire Pune chapter team. The website is iadvlpune.org, and it's live from today. This is our homepage.
So this is the website, and now we will begin with our scientific program and the proceedings. Ritu, you can go ahead with the scientific session.
Without further ado, we begin with the proceedings. Our first speaker is Dr. Yashwant Taude sir. He needs no introduction. He's a teacher par excellence. He's a professor and head of the department in KEM Hospital, Pune. He is also a consultant at Maharashtra Medical Foundation's Joshi Hospital. Sir has a vast experience of over 40 years in clinical dermatology, and he will be taking spots on congenital anomalies. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I thank Dr. Dhanashree Bide and the whole team for giving me opportunity for this taking a part in this quiz contest. Without wasting our time, we'll start with the first part of the spot cases. Group all the spots which are included under the heading of congenital and genetic anomaly. Can I hear you? I mean, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
No.
Sir, you are audible. Everything is properly seen. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So genetic and original topic was congenital, but then I took liberty to modify to congenital and genetic anomalies. I'm going to show a few of the cases, and related to that, I'm going to ask a few questions. You yourself decide whether you know the answer of this. With every next slide, you will get some clue for the diagnosis, which will help you. And at the end of the lecture, you yourself decide how many of the cases you are diagnosed yourself, right? Let us start now. These reddish pink dome-shaped papules or nasolabial folds, cheeks, forehead, ear, and skull. And they are present on the face, and they are started after the age group of 1 to 2 years. What is the diagnosis? I will give another clue. This patient has got history of epilepsy, and the CT changes shows that there is something opacity in the brain. I think now we'll be able to diagnose it. What is the diagnosis? The diagnosis is adenoma sebaceum, or part of a tuberous sclerosis. What is the earlier dermatological sign of tuberous sclerosis? The earliest sign is white macules, which can be visible in the fair person with a Woods lamp. What are the additional dermatological signs which are seen with tuberous sclerosis? You must all know all these. These are ash leaf spots, confetti lesions, periungual fibroma. What can be the differential diagnosis in such cases? It's trichoepithelemia. To differentiate, histopathology helps us. What is the histopathology of adenoma sebaceum? It is not an adenoma of the sebaceous gland, but it is an angiofibroma. In our medical language, we call this as a hamartoma. Now, what is the meaning of hamartoma? What is the meaning of hamartoma? Hamartoma is the excessive growth of the cells and the tissue at a native slide. When it is come on the other abnormal side, we call it the teratoma. What is the novel drug therapy now available for this, which is not available easily in India, is rapamycin and imatinib. Let us go to the next case. What is the description? Well-defined, round, dome-shaped, scarlet red swelling with lobulated surface. What is the diagnosis? Diagnosis is simple. It is an hemangioma, or called as strawberry hemangioma. What are the complications? One of the complications is visible in this slide is ulceration. Ulceration, thrombosis, bleeding, impaired function of organ depending upon the site, like eyes, ear. What is the serious complication of such an extensive hemangioma? The complication is left ventricular failure. What is the treatment of this particular condition? Previously, the treatment was systemic corticosteroids, flash lamp, palm dye laser. But now, new treatment is available is propranolol or beta blocker. It is given systemically. It is given as 1 milligram per kilogram body weight per day in 2 to 3 divided doses initially. If there is no response, you can increase it to 4 milligram per kilogram body in a stepwise manner. However, it is not simple to give a propranolol. Propranolol has got side effects.
तुम्ही तुमचं
All-
प्रेझेंटेशन मला मेल करता का, म्हणजे काही अडचण आली तर आम्ही इकडनं शेअर करू.
check, basically you check for HHB.
BS.com.
What is HHB? Is hypotension, hypoglycemia, and bronchospasm. These three letters HHB are important. If you can manage hypotension, hypoglycemia, and bronchospasm in small children, you can go ahead with using a propranolol in your own clinic. But if you are not confident that you cannot manage the hypotension, hypoglycemia, and bronchospasm, it is better to take a help of a pediatrician. For the first few days, administer the propranolol under the supervision of pediatrician. For a small cases of hemangioma, you can topically apply beta blocker, timolol, which is an eye drop used for glaucoma by ophthalmologists. Now, normally the parents ask you, what will happen to my child? What will happen to these cases? It's very simple to remember. In 30% cases, it dissolves by the age of 3rd year. In 50% cases, by 5th birthday, the lesion disappeared. And 70% disappeared by 7th birthday, and normally 100% nearly about after the age of 10 to 12. So you know the prognosis, you know the treatment. With this, we'll go to another case, which is also an erythematous unilateral macular lesion at the birth, which may develop hypertrophic and nodules over a period of time. What is this? As it is erythematous, it is something related to vessels. This is called the nevus flammeus. It's a type of port wine stain. What is the histology? As against Sturge-Weber syndrome, here it is ectasia of vessel, the dilatation of vessels, and there is no proliferation of the vessel. What is the defect? Why such a dilatation occurs in such cases? The cause is defective sympathetic innervation of that area, and therefore they remain a persistent dilatation of the vessel. What is the treatment? Treatment of Sturge-Weber is not very that difficult, but treatment of nevus flammeus type of vascular anomaly is difficult. Flash lamp pulse dialyzer, which is not easily available, and even with the flash lamp pulse dialyzer, you do not get proper result. However, this type of anomaly is normally associated with the internal anomalies. And there are various syndromes. One is Sturge-Weber syndrome, having a ipsilateral leptomeningeal hemangioma inside. And there is another syndrome called as Kippel-Filoni-Weber syndrome, where there are soft tissue growth, arterial venous fistula, and the varicose veins. As far as the Sturge-Weber syndrome is concerned, if the nevus flammeus is above the lateral canthus, then the chances of having an internal abnormality is more than if it is below the canthus of the eye. Now let us slight differentiation between the Sturge-Weber and the nevus flammeus. Strawberry hemangioma is a proliferation of endothelial cells against nevus flammeus, which is the dilatation of the blood vessel. Strawberry hemangioma regress with the age, and the nevus flammeus progress with the age. Let us go to further case. Dry Hitchcock-like lesions on the body, extremely dry, scaly appearance of the skin, mainly over extents are in the first few years of the life. Diagnosis is very simple. All of you will be able to diagnose it. It is ichthysis vulgaris. What is the meaning of ichthysis? The meaning of ichthyosis, you know, is a fish-like scales. Which condition is commonly associated with ichthyosis vulgaris? The condition which is associated with ichthyosis vulgaris is atopic dermatitis. It is important to remember if it is associated with ichthyosis, atopy is associated with ichthyosis vulgaris, one must remember in ichthyosis vulgaris, flexures are not involved. But when they are associated with the atopy, the flexures are involved with eczematitis changes. What is the common cause? What are the common causes of acquired ichthyosis? There are n number of causes for the acquired ichthyosis, but you must remember only important of them is endocrine disorder like hypothyroid, lymphoma, and is sorry for the interruption. Which are the major lipids in the stratum corneum? Ceramide, cholesterol, and free fatty acid. Which ceramides are decreased in the ichthyosis? Ceramide 1 and 6. What is the difference between the emollient, occlusive moisturizer, and humectant? Emollient reduces evaporation of the water, adds oil and moisture to the skin. Humectant draws the water from the surroundings, and occlusive moisture retards the water loss. Will methotrexate and retinoid help in this condition? The answer to this question is no. Why no? Ichthyosis vulgaris and sex-linked ichthyosis are retention ichthyosis, the retention of the keratin. However, laminar ichthyosis and epidermolytic bullosa, epidermal hypertrophic are hypertrophic ichthyosis. Therefore, methotrexate and retinoids are useful for other type of ichthyosis, but they are not that useful in ichthyosis vulgaris and sex-linked ichthyosis. Let us go to the further case. What is it? Tan brown patches beginning in the early years of life. What is it? Café au lait macules, café au lait patch. The meaning you know, coffee with the milk. The common question asked on this is, which are the diseases associated with the calm? But there are n number of diseases which are present, but you must remember mainly the neurofibromatosis, tuberous sclerosis, and other neurocutaneous syndromes, unlike Albers syndrome. What is the presumptive evidence in cases of neurofibromatosis when you see the café au lait macules? If the café au lait, in prepubertal age, if the café au lait macules are 6 or more, with the size of 0.5 centimeter or 5 millimeter, is probably suggestive of neurofibromatosis, and in post-pubertal, 6 or more come more than 1.5 centimeter. What is the histological change in this type of a pigmentation? The histological change, number of melanocytes are normal, but there is increased epidermal pigmentation. What is phacoma? The phacoma is a mother spot. Phacoma is present in the retina near the macula in a grayish-white manner. This particular condition or phacoma is visible in 3 genetic disorders and 1 congenital abnormality. Which are the 3 genetic disorders? Are neurofibromatosis, then the neurofibromatosis, then tuberous sclerosis, and third one is von Lippmann-Lindy syndrome, and 1 congenital anomaly, Sturge-Weber syndrome. The phacoma is a mother spot. What is this? Intensely dark palpable lesions present at the birth with increased surface marking, sometimes associated with the hypertrichosis. Diagnosis is very easy. It's a giant melanocytic nevus. Normally the size is more than 20 centimeters. What is the histopathology? It is the extension of the nevus cells in the deeper tissue. Is there any association with the internal organ? Benign or malignant lesions of the CNS with signs and symptoms of CNS abnormality. What are the clinical signs of malignant transformation in such cases? Sudden appearance of the new lesion, then there increased pigmentation, itching, pain and bleeding, and ulcerations. What is the treatment option? One must treat this case because there is a chance that it will lead to a malignancy. The best treatment available is multi-stage serial excision in the ideal treatment. Of course, there are treatments with lasers also, but the results are not that good. Twist ruby laser, high energy pulse CO2 laser. Discrete, deeply pigmented, well demarcated benign macules on the mucosa. What is the diagnosis? I will give one clue. It is associated with the gastrointestinal polyps present on the body. Now you can diagnose it. It is a Peutz-Jeghers syndrome. What is the mode of inheritance? It is autosomal dominant. Clinical findings are mucocutaneous lentiginous soft tissue malignancy of cervix, testes, and ovaries. Apart from lips, it can occur on the eyelid, trunk, hands, and feet. The patients with multiple pigmented lesions which are freckles and there is a photosensitivity. What is the diagnosis? Xeroderma pigmentosa. What is the basic defect in such cases? Defect in removal and replacement of damaged DNA after UV exposure leading to photosensitivity and carcinogenesis. What systems are involved in xeroderma pigmentosa? Skin, eye, and nervous system. Can you do a prenatal diagnosis in such case? Chorionic villus biopsy normally helps for the prenatal diagnosis. Is there any role of vitamin D? All these people, it is being a photosensitive, they remain indoors. So there is always a vitamin D deficiency and therefore they need an external vitamin D. What are the complications? No need to tell, you can see for the pictures that there are malignancies. Here is the case with the cafe au lait spots with freckle-like. Freckles increase in the quantity of melanin. Freckles is what? Increase in the quantity of melanin without change in the melanocyte number, which also applies to the cafe au lait spot. This is lentigen. There is an increased melanocytes with increased melanin. So lentigen, increased melanocyte, freckle, increased melanin. And what is mole? Melanocytic nevus. Nevoid cells, there is the increase in the nevoid cells. And what is nevoid cell? They are different from the normal melanocytes. They are rounded without dendrites and arranged in a clusters of the nest. So these are the three different histological changes in three different types of localized pigmentation. What is this? Excessive hair growth at the sacral area. What is this? Sacral hypertrichosis. It is associated with spina bifida and sometimes with pilonidal sinus. What is the treatment for this? Previously, people used to do electrolysis, but now you can go for the laser of a diode type. these are the two cases which show that there is operation of the spina bifida, and in the other case there is some anomaly in the vertebral region. So the treatment after laser as well as treatment after a surgical intervention in cases with associated abnormality. What is the difference between hypertrichosis and hirsutism? Hirsutism is the excessive hair growth at androgen dependent area. Hypertrichosis is not limited to androgen dependent area. What is this? Atrophic scars over the cheeks and the nose with a mild injury. There are beads at the lead margin. There is hoarseness of the voice, adult voice in a child, and they are failure to cry. There is a thick immobile tongue. This is lipoid proteinosis. Internal associations are intracranial calcification, dental abnormalities, and epilepsy. Next case is recurrent crops of tense vesiculobullous eruption in a linear pattern along lines of Pascoe in early childhood. What is the diagnosis? Incontinentia pigmenti. What are the stages? First vesicular stage, then papillary stage, and then the atrophic change, and last stage vesiculobullous, varicose lesions, hyperpigmentation, and hypopigmentation. This is also associated with retinal vascular damage, CNS seizures, and dental abnormalities. Ability to extend the fingers beyond certain limit is hyperextensibility. Patients with hyperextension of the joints, what is the diagnosis? Ehlers-Danlos. What is the basic defect? The defect is in the connective tissue, abnormal collagen. What is Gorlitz sign? It is the ability of the tongue to touch to the nose. Which type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome there is a local anesthesia? It's a hypermobile type. Can it be diagnosed prenatally? Yes, few subtypes can be diagnosed prenatally. A child having the lesions on the face and on the hands. What are the type of lesions? There are certain few vesicles are there are ulcers are there, and the crustaceans. So vesiculobullous eruption with crustacean on the face and the hand, and they are recurrent. So recurrent blisters and ulcers mainly on the face, hand. What is the diagnosis? If you ask the patient to open the mouth, you see the chocolate colored teeth. Now what is the diagnosis? Now the diagnosis is still you cannot, you see the color of the urine, and the color of the urine is chocolate color. Now you can diagnose. It is a congenital erythropoietic porphyria or Gunther's disease. What is the biochemical defect in Gunther's disease? Deficiency of uroporphyrin 3 co-synthetic leads to overproduction of uroporphyrin 1 isomer and coproporphyrin 1. These accumulate in the bone, plasma, bones, teeth, and their corresponding are excreted in the excess amount in the urine and the stool. Infant can present with a jaundice, and if you expose the child to the ultraviolet rays for the phototherapy, these children will develop bullous eruptions. So, after the birth, before development of the clinical signs of genital erythropoietic porphyria can be early diagnosed if the child develops bullous eruption after phototherapy given for the jaundice. Lab findings: increase uroporphyrin 1, coproporphyrin 1 in RBC stool and the urine. Can we do a prenatal diagnosis? Uroporphyrin in amniotic fluid. Which porphyria there is no photosensitivity? You know the answer, it is acute intermittent porphyria. Porphyrins are photosensitive, but in case of acute intermittent porphyria, it is porphyrins are not incurred. The precursor of porphyrins are incurred, therefore they are associated with the pain in abdomen like symptom, but not associated with the photodermatosis. Few spot cases like this with a peck curved tooth and the typical space depressed nose and frontal prominences, and this is ectodermal dysplasia. Pigmentation in the cheek also involving the sclera is a very typical case of nevus of Ota. What is the treatment of nevus of Ota? Now it is not very difficult to treat. You can treat with a Nd:YAG laser, with Nd:YAG laser. Another pigmentary abnormality which occurs not at birth but at the adolescent stage, pigmentation around the pectoral region, Pecos nevus. Normally no treatment is needed, but treatment can be done with a laser. Thank you very much, friend. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dhanashree.
Thank you, sir.
Please stop the sharing.
Sir, excellent presentation. Question and answers we will take in the end after all the presentations.
Now I would like to invite our second speaker, Dr. Praveen Bhartiya sir. He is an honorary consultant and associate professor in skin in KEM Hospital, Pune. He is also a postgraduate guide in dermatology and is also a consultant at Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, Pune. He has many publications in both Indian and international journals. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Good morning. First of all, I must thank Dr. Dhanashree Bide and her team, and I congratulate them for the inauguration of the website. Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're
sir.
audible. Your screen has also been shared, so you can start, sir.
Thank you. Now here are some spots for the papilloscomas diseases. I'll try to cover the spots as well as some relevant questions regarding these usual papilloscomal disorders, which may come as short case or long case. Let us start with first psoriasis. You can see a very well circumscribed plaque. The diagnosis is very obvious, but what is expected to narrate is it's a very well circumscribed plaque which has a homogeneous salmon pink erythema. Then the secondary lesions in the form of scales. But how are the scales? Micaceous, loosely adherent, and last but not the least, a positive Auspitz sign. What is a positive Auspitz sign? The sign is Auspitz, but the test you do is a grattage test. What is grattage? Ophthalmologists do for the trachoma, they scrape the granulomatous lesion, that is grattage. So you are supposed to, with a blunt instrument, try and scrape the scale. It is positive because of what all factors contribute for a positive Auspitz sign? Suprapapillary thinning, elongation of dermal papillae, dilated, tortuous, and don't forget fragile capillaries. But this test is neither sensitive nor specific. It is negative in psoriasis types like pustular and guttate and even arthrodermic. And it is positive in non-psoriatic conditions like Darius disease and actinic keratosis. A small representation, diagrammatic representation of psoriasis vis-a-vis normal skin. You can note the uniform elongation of retiridges, thinning of suprapapillary plate, parakeratosis, and dilated and tortuous blood capillaries, and T lymphocyte infiltrate in the upper dermis and perivascular. This is the histopathological slide of psoriasis. There is hyperkeratosis, parakeratosis, suprapapillary thinning, neutrophils in the dermal papillae. At times they can cause a spongiform pustule of Kogoj in the epidermis, and subcorneal pustule in the form of Monroe's microabscess in classic cases. Absence of these does not rule out psoriasis. There is uniform camel hoof-like appearance to the elongated retiridges, and there is a loss of stratum granulosum. Granular cell layer is almost always absent. There is no spongiosis as against eczema. Now, how do we classify psoriasis? There are two ways in which we can classify. First is the morphological variant, where the most common is the psoriasis vulgaris, as the name suggests. Next is the palmoplantar type of psoriasis. Third is the elephantine, also called as rupioid or ostraceous, which has large, profuse, thick, adherent, pigmented scales. Then comes the pustular psoriasis, either localized or generalized. Then is the erythrodermic psoriasis, complete or almost near complete involvement of the body. Follicular psoriasis, and psoriasis verrucosa, rather rare variant, where you have two types, dome-shaped papules and crater-shaped papules, the central depression, something like keratoacanthoma. The next type of classification is depending upon the distribution. Like psoriasis vulgaris, as you all know, involves elbows, knees, presacral area. Second variant is scalp, which may or may not be associated with the lesions on the elbows and knees. Palmoplantar distribution. Psoriasis unguis, involvement of nails, may be the only feature or may be associated with the plaque type or generalized variant. Linear psoriasis, only along a single line. Inverse psoriasis, involvement of the flexures, groins, axillae. And sebo-psoriasis, which is considered when overlap between sebo-psoriasis and seborrheic dermatitis and psoriasis, usually restricted to the scalp. Now we'll go through a few pictures. Psoriasis vulgaris, elbows and lower back. The next type is gutted psoriasis, which is common in children. The classic gutta means oil. The distribution is raindrop-like. It's mainly on the trunk, common in children, usually follows a streptococcal sore throat. Most of these lesions heal, but almost 1/3 of them can go into vulgaris type. This is the Abramovich sign. Interestingly enough, this is very rarely mentioned in books and articles. Only one book and one article mentions this. Nothing very great. It is seen in inverse psoriasis in the form of redness and maceration in the natal cleft. Abramovich sign. Now we come to the nail changes in psoriasis. What are those? Most common to begin with is the pits, which are, unlike alopecia areata, are uneven, shallow, or varied in depth, along with onycholysis. Subungual hyperkeratosis in older cases. There is yellow-red discoloration in the nail bed. It is oil spot sign, resembling drops of oil on the piece of paper. And in the end, there could be dystrophy of the whole nail, thickening, and dystrophy with splinter hemorrhages. Coming to the next type, scalp. How do we differentiate from seborrheic dermatitis? Seborrheic dermatitis scales are rather greasy and the ill-defined areas, and the size of scales vary, thickening and size. Color is yellowish. Whereas in psoriasis, usually they stop short at the hairline all along. There is a diffuse erythema in the background, and there are whitish micaceous scales as we see in other types, unlike seborrheic dermatitis. The inverse type characteristically lacks the scales seen in the groins, axillae, characterized by the fissures along the crural fold, which is very peculiar. Of course, this is not the only condition where you see this, but inverse psoriasis is an interesting condition, must remember. Coming to the rare types, ostraceous, as we are seeing, pigmented, yellowish, dirty appearing plaques on legs. The rupioid, which has a central crater like keratoacanthoma. Palmoplantar psoriasis, very fairly common. On the left side you can see, but this may resemble any other palmoplantar keratoderma. but on the right side, it is more easily recognizable along with nail changes, lot of diffuse erythema on the background. They may have painful fissures. Transgradients may be there. Coming to the other varieties, erythrodermic, almost involvement of the whole body, as you can see. And generalized pustular psoriasis, here you can see the lakes of pus, which could be de novo von Jumbusch type or a known patient of plaque psoriasis, which either because of application of irritants or because of stoppage of abrupt stoppage of oral steroids can go into von Jumbusch or generalized pustular psoriasis. We come to the next papilloscomal disorder, lichen planus. They are faintly erythematous to violaceous, as the classic book description goes. Remember 6 P's. There were 5, but the new article mentions 6 P's: purple, pruritic, polygonal, planar, papules, and plaques. Wickham striae are very classic diagnostic. The thin semi-transparent membrane with fine lacy crisscrossed whitish reticulated network. They are barely seen on dry surface. It is only well appreciated after adding oil or xylene or water. Distribution is symmetrical over ventral aspects of wrists, arms, lower legs, lumbar areas. There may be involvement of genitals and mucosa. Always ask history of dental fillers, drugs to rule out lichenoid drug eruption. Hepatitis C has been mentioned in Western literature as a consistent association. This is a classic lichen planus. You can see on the ventral aspects of wrists and the cubital foci. On the left-hand side, what we cannot miss is the Koebner phenomenon. A small discussion on Koebner phenomenon, which almost will be asked. What is Koebner phenomenon? It is the development of isomorphic pathologic lesions in the traumatized, uninvolved skin of patients who have cutaneous diseases. There's a very wonderful article for the students by Dr. D.M. Thapa in the IIDVL Handbook for Residents, 2009, I think. 4 types. True type, isomorphic phenomenon seen in psoriasis, lichen planus, and vitiligo. Pseudo, as it is called, in infectious diseases, because it will spread of the microbes like in warts and mollusca, and conditions characterized by pathology like Behçet's disease and pyoderma gangrenosum. Occasionally occurring, 1 or few case reports, Halle-Halle disease, erythema multiforme, pellagra, lichen sclerosis retropicus, Kyle's disease, and perforating disorders. And questionable, like single case reports, like bullous pemphigoid, discoid lupus, pityriasis rubra pilaris, lichen nitidus, pleva, and cutaneous small vessel vasculitis, etc. To continue discussion on Koebner phenomenon, it is usually caused by various factors like trauma, the most common. It could be mechanical or thermal, like post burns or scald, scratch mark, friction with cloth strap or footwear, scald, insect bite, even shaving. Certain inflammatory skin diseases, eczema and folliculitis, allergic and irritant reactions, like BCG vaccination, hair dye, contact allergic dermatitis, tuberculin taste itself in a known patient of psoriasis can cause Koebner's, or photosensitivity disorders. Certain treatment modalities can also initiate Koebner, like PUVA, UVB, application of TCA or CA for, say, molluscum or warts. A word on reverse Koebner phenomenon: clearing of lesions of psoriasis after injury, especially trauma, surgery, electrodesiccation, sandpaper abrasion, etc. Coming back to our discussion on lichen planus, some books have clubbed the classification, but I would just, for simplicity, would divide into 2 types of classification. First is the morphological. This is the classic lichen planus as we have discussed. The 6 P's: pruritic, plain, top, papules, purple. Other type is hypertrophic. Third is atrophic. Fourth is gutted or acute eruptive. Annular, bullous lichen planus, follicular lichen planus, ulcerative or erosive, and lichen planus pemphigoides. The other means of classification like psoriasis is distribution based. Classic, involving wrists and lower legs, volar aspects of wrists, mucosal, buccal and or vulvovaginal, palmoplantar lichen planus, scalp is called as lichen planopilaris, which also causes scarring alopecia, lichen planus actinicus, also called as lichen planus subtropicus, which is seen only on the sun exposed areas, inverse lichen planus, more interdigenous areas like groins, axillae, lichen planus of nails, which may be only restricted to nails, and linear lichen planus. This is a representative histology, hyperkeratosis, band-like infiltrate, and you can see on the right side the Max Joseph spaces at the dermoepithelial junction between epidermis and dermis. This is the classic histological slide of lichen planus, which shows hyperkeratosis. It is a kind of retention hyperkeratosis. The granular cell layer, as opposed to psoriasis, is thickened. There is a scomatization of epidermis. There is a basal cell degeneration with a band-like infiltrate. The dying keratinocytes appear as eosinophilic masses called colloid bodies or cytoid bodies. These are the few cases of oral mucosa, oral lichen planus. On the left side, you can see asymptomatic lace-like pattern. On the right side, you can see erosive, which is more symptomatic. This is on the left side, you can see the scalp involvement in the form of scarring alopecia. You can see prominent follicles. On the right side, hypertrophic lichen planus. On the left side, you can see actinic, which is the distribution is restricted to the sun-exposed areas, and follicular on the loins on the right side. Linear and rolled, the rare types of lichen planus, but the violaceous papules are unmistakable. Coming to the nail changes of psoriasis, it is 10% of individuals. It may be the only manifestation of lichen planus. The features are, there is thin nail plate and longitudinal ridging. Lunula is more elevated than the more distal portion, as you can see in the slide number, the second image. Pterygium may form in the late cases with total anonychia, loss of nail. This is the genital involvement. On the left side, you can see the violaceous involvement of the whole subcutaneous area. And the right side, it is the erosive, extensive involvement of the vulva extending into the vagina, erosive vulvovaginal type. Now coming to a lichenoid drug eruption, how it differs from acute eruptive lichen planus is history of drug. But apart from that, you can see fine scaling, and the absence of Wickham stria is a good important tool. This is a quick comparison or differences between classic lichen planus and lichenoid eruption. History of drug, location, wrists, ankles, and flexures in lichen planus. Whereas lichenoid eruption, you can see it's more generalized. Morphology is flat, plain-topped violet papules, whereas scaly, eczematous, or psoriasiform papules will be there in drug eruption. Scales are barely visible in classic lichen planus unless you put oil, whereas they're prominent in lichenoid eruption. Wickham stria are present in lichen planus, where they're absent or uncommon rather in lichenoid eruption. Post PIH always common in lichen planus, rather which is common and darker, stays for long in lichenoid drug eruption. Photo distribution unusual in lichen planus, whereas frequent in drug eruption. Mucous membrane involvement is fairly common in lichen planus, but usually they are spared in drug eruption. Nail involvement is common in lichen planus, is spared in drug eruption. Scalp is known to be involved, whereas spared in eruption. Histopathology can give a clue. Apart from the classic lesions which we see in lichen planus, the drug eruption would show eosinophilic infiltrate and focal parakeratosis. Coming to our next condition, papuloscopic disorder, pityriasis rosea. Herald patch is very classic of pityriasis rosea. It is the largest lesion, which usually precedes 2 weeks of the rash. It's not always present, but if it appears, it heralds an extensive eruption. The pink to salmon colored macules, ranging from 0.5 to 1.5 centimeters, they enlarge over a few days to a plaque with a classic book mentioned. These words must come, collarette of fine cigarette paper scale just inside the border. We'll discuss what is this sign. Arrangement is a Christmas tree branches pattern. The differential are drug-induced pityriasis rosea, history of drug. But how is it different? It is itchy, less numerous, larger and more scaly. There's absence of herald patch. There could be lichenoid lesions. Now this is classic pityriasis rosea, and this is the close-up. You can see the scales are inside the outer edge of the lesion, single lesion, and it is attached to the periphery and hanging inside. So it's like a collar of your shirt or a suit. One side is attached, the other is free, but it's opposite here. The outer edge is attached, inner edge is hanging free. That's why it's called as a collarate of scale. Histopathology is not very diagnostic, but there are a few peculiar features Basically, it is essentially that of chronic dermatitis called Unna's sign. These are teapot lid sign, small mounds of angulated parakeratosis, teapot lid. There is absent or decreased granular cell layer named as Loewenbach sign. The spongiosis, perivascular lymphocytic infiltrate, extravasation of RBCs in papillary dermis and epidermis called Seborrhoid sign, and there is a homogenization of papillary collagen. You can see here most of these signs. On the right side, you can see parakeratotic mound, which is angulated. It's called as a teapot lid sign. There are eczematous changes like spongiosis. There is psoriasis hyperplasia, RBC extravasation, and superficial perivascular infiltrate. We come to the next condition called pleva, pityriasis lichenoides et varioliformis acuta. It is a continuous, it's a spectrum. At one end it is pleva, at the other end there is the chronica. Abrupt onset, 10 to 50 erythematous to reddish brown or purpuric, round to oval lichenoid scattered papules, usually 5 to 15 millimeters in diameter. Many papules show central pseudovesiculation, central necrosis, or even hemorrhagic crust. Symmetry may be noted. Common involvement sites are trunk, gluteal areas, and proximal limbs. Most lesions deal with post-inflammatory dyspigmentation, that is either hyper or hypo or both. In some cases, may resolve of their own or may progress to chronica. These are the classic pictures view. On the right side, you can see the close-up. So what you note here is erythematous to reddish brown or purpuric, round or oval, lichenoid scattered papules. At times you can see hemorrhagic crusts, which is a feature of acuta. What does the histopathology show? Epidermis shows scale crust, parakeratosis, keratinocyte necrosis, and intracellular edema. There is interface dermatitis in addition. The lymphocytic infiltrate is denser and more wedge-shaped in acute variant. All these changes are more or less similar in the chronic variant, but subdued. Here the infiltrate is quite heavy and wedge-shaped. There is admixture of neutrophils and histiocytes in addition to lymphocytes. There is extravasation of RBCs, and lymphocytic vasculitis is in acute variant. Now, this is the representative slide which shows a scale crust on the top. There is a basal vascular damage with lymphocytes infiltrating the epidermis. There is a wedge-shaped infiltrate, which is lichenoid, perivascular interstitial placement. There is epidermal edema, hemorrhagic necrotic scale crust with parakeratosis. Extravasation of RBCs is also very characteristic, and a mild lymphocytic vasculitis. Coming to pityriasis lichenoides chronica, the other end of spectrum, again here you see erythematous to reddish brown papules, which has a very fine scale, the so-called frosted glass appearance. The rash is pleomorphic with different stages. What is pleomorphic? Different stages of the condition of the disease are seen at the same time. So you can see papules, you can see crusts, you can see pigmented changes at the same time. As against polymorphic is different morphologies, but in a given patient, usually we see the same type of morphology. Whereas in pleomorphic, we see different stages in the same patient at the same time. Macular hypopigmentation, scaly patches, is common in dark skin, especially in children. The lesions are scattered but discrete. In between skin is normal. Symmetry is usually seen. Common areas are trunk, gluteal areas, and proximal limbs. Here you can see it's a very classic progress from early erythematous papule to scaly brown red papule, later becomes tan brown, involutes into flat papule, ultimately macule, and ultimately post-inflammatory pigmentary changes. But all or many can be seen in the same patient at the same time, pleomorphic rash. But there are no hemorrhagic crusts or vesicles in pityriasis lichenoides chronica, unlike pleva. We come to the next condition called pityriasis rubra pilaris. There are small pinpoint aggregated circular horn-like hyperkeratotic follicular papules resembling the surface of classically described as nutmeg grater. Pink to orange red peg scales, sharply marginated plaques of varying sizes spreading craniocaudally. They may coalesce all over to form erythroderma. But islands of sparing, skip area is a very common characteristic. Classic books mention 5 types in the pityriasis rubra pilaris. Classic adult, atypical adult, circumscribed juvenile, classic juvenile, atypical juvenile. But recently the one more is added to this list named HIV associated. This is the picture of pityriasis rubra pilaris adult classic. You can see there is a red-brown plaques, ill-defined margins, but you can see the islands of normal skin in between, which is very characteristic. This is the picture of circumscribed juvenile type. You can see involvement of knees, palms, soles, and transgradins, involvement of dorsa of hands and feet as well. What does the histopathology show of PRP? Let's divide into two types, follicular lesions and non-follicular. In the follicular lesions, we see shoulder parakeratosis on either side of the hair follicles, that is shoulder parakeratosis. Infundibulum dilated with follicular plugs. The the arrectorum pallidum becomes prominent, and there is a perifollicular lymphocytic infiltrate. Here is a diagrammatic representation with alternating ortho and parakeratotic plugs. Parakeratosis on the shoulders, that is on the sides of follicle. Infundibulum dilated. There is an orthokerotic plug. There is a mild perifollicular infiltrate. And it shows acanthosis, broad and short range, irregular acanthosis, broad and short retinages and thick subpapillary plates. The other part of PRP is non-follicular lesions. It is a classic checkerboard pattern, alternating ortho and parakeratosis, which is vertically and horizontally. Acanthosis, broad and short retinages, thick suprapapillary plate, focal hypergranulosis. There is a hypertrophic pallidum and atrophic sebaceous glands. Again, the representative drawing, you can see the parafollicular shoulders, and you can appreciate like a checkerboard, vertical and horizontal, alternating ortho and parakeratosis, and there is a orthokerotic plug, and you can see the dilated follicular infundibulum. Coming to the next disorder, Darier's disease, also called as keratosis follicularis, which is an autosomal dominant disease of faulty cell adhesion and keratinization. Cause is a mutation in gene ATP2A2. Clinically, it is characterized by wart-like greasy, so-called dirty warty papules, which tend to coalesce into plaques, symmetrically distributed on scalp, face, chest, and back. They begin as small, firm papules, soon become covered with greasy yellow-brown to black crust, which has a coarse sandpaper feel. Inframammary and intergluteal areas commonly involved, macerated odoriferous, highly vulnerable to become secondary infected, and they impart a very bad odor. Nail involvement is very peculiar. There are painful longitudinal splits, distinctive red and white bands terminating into V-shaped nicks. These are dirty papules on the anterior chest wall and abdominal wall. Close up on the right upper side, you can see dirty warty papules. The nail changes are quite classical. It is called as a wedge-shaped nick at the free margin. There is a vertical split, which is painful and may have hemorrhages. Coming to the histology, hyperkeratosis, papillomatosis, acanthosis, and there is a follicular hyperkerotic plugs. But a specific change is there is a focal acantholytic dyskeratosis. There is acantholysis, it is acantholytic disorder, and there is a dyskeratosis, altered keratinization. There is a villous growth of epidermis lined by a single layer of basal cells project into acantholytic clefts in stratum malpighi. Chorons are the round cells in Malpighian layer with eosinophilic condensed cytoplasm and pycnotic nucleus. Chorons, and grains are the dense eosinophilic spindle-shaped cells seen in the stratum cornea with small nucleus, which look like large parakerotic cells. And there is a chronic lymphocytic infiltrate in the dermis. This is the picture of histology of Darier's disease. You can see in a summary, there is suprabasal cleft, there is a focal acantholytic dyskeratosis, dyskeratotic cells, and you can see chorons and grains. I have not touched upon the treatment part because it would have consumed too much of time. Thank you for patient listening.
Thank you, sir, for an excellent presentation. For further proceedings, I hand over to Dr. Rashmi Soni.
पत्की सर, आपण तुमचं शेवटी घेतोय. आता आपण मंगेश निकमचं घेतोय आणि मग यांचं घेतोय, तुमचं घेतोय, कारण प्रेझेंटेशन शेअर होत नव्हतं म्हणून सिक्वेन्स चेंज केलाय.
ओके ओके.
आणि ऍक्च्युली we are having some issue with the server. So few people are unable to join. We are trying to solve the issue as soon as possible. But I would say that there is a recording that is available, going to be available. So those who could not join it, probably we will share it on our website. But before the quiz, we are 100% going to solve this issue, whatever has happened right now. Sorry for the technical hitch right now.
Rashmi?
Rashmi, over to
Should
you.
we start? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Our next speaker is Dr. Balkrishna Nikam. He is the Associate Professor of Krishna Institute of Medical Sciences at Karad, and he also is a practicing dermatologist at the Nitwal Skin Clinic at Karad and Islampur. He has over 15 publications in various international and national journals to his name, and his areas of interest are dermatopathology, dermatotherapeutics, and psychodermatology. Over to you, sir.
Okay, my topic is related to the hair disorder, and as per Dhanashree ma'am's guidance, what I have done, I have included 6 cases, and we will discuss as if we are taking actual spots in exam. So that's how I have prepared it. There will be questions by me, and the answers will be also by me. Probably I have selected the ideal answers, and most of the answers which are in black font are which you must know, and the answers which are in a red font is good to know, that if you are able to answer those particular answers, then you are closer to the distinction or first class. So we'll start with the first spotter. Now this is a case of 30-year-old male. So naturally your diagnosis is alopecia areata, and the question will be, why is this alopecia areata? So there is well-defined areas of hair loss without scaling, without scarring, and without irregular breakage of the hair at different length. So which other areas will you like to examine? As alopecia areata involves, apart from scalp hair, involves facial hair, eyebrows, mustache, beard, as well as it can involve body hair, axillary, as well as pubic hair. And I will also like to examine the nails. So what are the nail changes seen in alopecia areata? So the classic nail changes is regular nail pitting like Scotch plate pattern. Nail thinning and ridging can be seen, and sometimes extensive changes like 20 nail dystrophy or tracheonychia, which is a sandpaper-like roughness of the nail, can be seen. Sometimes you can see red or mottle lacunae and longitudinal arranged punctate leukonychia. So next question will be, what is the difference between nail pitting of psoriasis and alopecia areata? In psoriasis, the nail pitting will be more irregular, coarser, and deep, while in alopecia areata it is usually regular, superficial in a Scotch plate pattern. So how do you classify alopecias? So alopecias are basically classified between in a non-scarring alopecia and a scarring alopecia. Here I am only dealing with the non-scarring. Scarring will be dealt in the next spot. So non-scarring alopecia is further divided into the diffuse as well as focal, and the diffuse involves androgenic alopecia, anagen-effluvium, telogen-effluvium, neonatal alopecia, the different hair shaft disorders, and diffuse alopecia areata, which is rare. In focal non-scarring alopecia, we see alopecia areata, which is common. Next is tinea capitis, trichotillomania, traction alopecia, and congenital triangular alopecia. So how do you classify alopecia areata now? What are the types of the alopecia areata? So based on the extent, the alopecia areata has been divided into the patchy alopecia, which can be single or a multiple, alopecia totalis or a subtotalis, which is total or a near total loss of scalp hair, while alopecia universalis is a total to near total loss of body hair. And based on the pattern, it is divided into Ophiacis, Cissapio, and reticular. So Ophiacis is a hair loss in a band-like shape along the circumference of the head, more specifically along the occipital region and extending to the temporal region, while the Cissapio is extensive alopecia except around the periphery of the scalp. and the third is a reticular pattern. Some of the unusual variants which you should know, that is Canatis subita, which is also called as a Marie-Antoinette syndrome, which is an acute episode of diffuse alopecia with sudden overnight graying with preferential loss of pigmented hair. Alopecia incognito is also one more unusual variant, which is diffuse hair loss with positive pull test, yellow dots, short miniaturized regrowing hair without any nail involvement. So do you know any other classification of alopecia areata? Yes, it's a Ikita's classification, which is divided into common type, atopic type, prehypertensive type, and autoimmune type. So out of which the atopic, prehypertensive, and autoimmune type has a bad prognosis. So which are the differential diagnoses in alopecia areata? When it is localized alopecia areata, the differential diagnosis includes trichotillomania, tinea capitis, congenital triangular alopecia, and traumatic alopecia. Sometimes in reticular variants, it simulates pseudopelade of Brock, while diffuse alopecia areata can be confused with androgenic alopecia, telogen effluvium. Rarely it can be confused with alopecia mucinosa, metastatic alopecia, or alopecia syphilitica. So how will you investigate the case? What are the bedside or lab tests for alopecia areata? So first of all, hair pull test, dermoscopy, trichogram, that is hair mount. And if the lesion is scaly, I will also like to do KOH to rule out the fungal infections. For the systemic investigations, I will like to do the CBC, thyroid function test, because it is a closer association. And sometimes you may require a skin biopsy for a diffuse alopecia areata, which confuses with the lupus. Here you need to rule out ANA by doing ANA, lupus erythematosus, as well as syphilis by doing VDRL. So what are the different signs one can initiate in case of alopecia areata? The important sign is hair pull test. So hair pull test, you have to tuck the 60 hair and you give a gentle tug all along the length of the hair, and this will lead to pulling out of the 6 or more hair or 10% of the hair. Then it is a positive hair pull test which suggests activity, and it has to be done at the edge of the alopecia areata patch. Cowdability test is try to push the hair toward the scalp and it kinks at the weakest part. Further, you can demonstrate the cadaver hair, that is broken hair, preserved follicular ostia, then depigmented hair, and with the magnifying lens you can demonstrate frayed rope appearance of the free end as well as exclamation mark hair. So next question will be what is exclamatory mark hair? So due to defective keratinization, there is a weakening and shortening, narrowing of the proximal part of the hair. As this grows out, there will be a broadening at the distal end and the proximal end will be thin. This is called as an exclamatory mark hair, and it is seen along the active margin of the patch, which is later turned into the telogen and falls out. So when will you advise biopsy? Biopsy is typically advised when there is a diagnostic uncertainty, diffuse alopecia, alopecia incognito, if you want to differentiate it from the pseudopelade of Brock, and for the prognostic purpose sometimes to know the activity of the disease. So what are the histopathological features? The classic histopathological feature is peribulbar and intrabulbar lymphocytic infiltrate like a swarm of bees. There will be a decrease in total number of follicles, decrease terminal to vellus ratio, and increased number of vellus hair and telogen follicles. There will be a fibrous streamers formation, which is a loose fibrous tissue with abundant capillaries and pigment incontinence. So what will be the dermoscopic findings of alopecia areata? The yellow dots, black dots, which are the broken hairs, exclamation mark, and short vellus hair. So yellow dots correlate with the sebum collection in the dilated infundibula, while the black dots correlate with the broken hair. Which other diseases are seen association with alopecia areata? So you have to tell that Down syndrome is one association. Beyond that, endocrinological disorders common is thyroid disorder, diabetes mellitus, Addison's disease are associated with alopecia areata. Connective tissue diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus erythematosus, and certain anemias like pernicious anemia and celiac disease are also associated with alopecia areata. Thyroid diseases and vitiligo are the strongest one. What are the bad prognostic signs of alopecia areata? So positive family history, early onset of disease, longer and recurrent disease, association with atopic dermatitis, Downs, and associated other systemic disorders, extensive involvement like uffiasis or alopecia universalis, nail signs, that is tracheonychia, and when there is a patchy regrowth of terminal hair, which is also a sign of bad diagnostic bad prognostic factor. So what are the treatment option of alopecia areata? You divide it into topical treatment and systemic treatment. In topical, one can use topical steroid, tacrolimus, as well as intralesional steroids. Topical minoxidil can also be used. Then contact immunotherapy with DNCB and DPCP. Short contact anthraline and topical phenol can be used. Cryotherapy and laser therapy with the excimer can be used. In systemic therapy, one can use steroids in oral minipulse or a dexacyclopulse therapy in extensive alopecia universalis. Immunosuppressants like cyclosporin and azathioprine and methotrexate can be used. Photochemotherapy is also being utilized. So how do you use contact immunotherapy? In contact immunotherapy, we use following agents, which one is dinitrochlorobenzene, which is nowadays not used due to mutagenicity, squaric acid butyl ester, and 2,3-diphenyl cyclopropanol is a DPCP, which is commonly used. Initially, you sensitize the patient with higher concentration. Usually, sensitization is done on the upper back, followed by patient can be challenged with a lower concentration of allergen on the alopecic areas to maintain the brisk erythema over the lesion. So these are the questions where you may get stuck. So you should know, what if we don't treat alopecia areata? There is usually spontaneous remission occurs in up to 80% of the patients, with those who are having limited patchy hair loss. So you have to counsel such patients, reassure them that within 3 months there might be a growth of individual patch. And the prognosis of long-standing extensive alopecia is poor, and wig may be the option. So what is the scoring system in alopecia areata? So a little bit read about this severity of alopecia tool score, which is divided into the 40% of the scalp hair, vertex. Then occiput is divided into 24% and sides are 18% each. And this is how you have to calculate the score actually. So what are the other names of alopecia areata? Fox disease and area Celsi. The Celsi is name given after Cornelius Celsus, who described alopecia areata. Which are the animal models for alopecia areata treatment research? So you have to tell this Dundee experimental bald rat and C3H-HEJ mouse. So which are the emerging therapies? So Jacques kinase inhibitors like topical and oral tofacitinib and ruxolitinib, and also the IL-4 inhibitor biological, that is dupilumab. So coming to the spotter 2, now this is an 11-year-old girl having this kind of alopecia, which is a wavy, irregular, broken hair. So what are your differential diagnosis? So differential diagnosis includes trichotillomania, diffuse alopecia areata, tinea capitis, alopecia traumatica, which is an excessive use of hair softeners or hot combs. Apart from this, it can be alopecia secondary to irradiations or medications like thallium, alopecia toxica because of loss due to febrile illnesses, and alopecia syphilitica. So why is this trichotillomania? So basically it is because of patchy loss of hair in an easily accessible area, and typically hairs are short, irregular, broken, distorted at different lengths, and there is no scaling and no signs of inflammation. So is trichotillomania limited to the scalp? No, it involves beyond scalp, eyebrows, eyelashes, facial hair, pubic, axillary, chest, abdominal, as well as extremity hairs. What does trichotillomania means? So trichotillomania means tricho, that is thrix is hair, tillin is a pull out, and mania is a mildness. So it is defined as an irresistible urge to pull out the hair accompanied by sense of relief after the hair has been plucked. So it's a different name is habitual hair pulling. Which are the other trichotillomania apart from trichotillomania? Trichotillomania is a habitual cutting of the hair with the scissors. Trichotillomania is habitual rubbing of the hair leading to alopecia. Then trichorexomania, which is a compulsive act of cutting one's hair with the help of nails, producing actual no alopecia but irregular hair length. Then trichodagnomania is the compulsive habit of biting one's own hair, and it is typically seen on the forearm or a hand. Next is what is tonsure pattern of trichotillomania. So in extensive trichotillomania, the centrifugal pattern removes all hair except the most difficult to access, that is in the occipital and temporal area. This shows a tonsure pattern or a Friar tuck distribution. What is trichobesa? Some patients may practice trichophagy. The chewing and the swallowing of the hair that has been pulled out possibly leads to gastric or intestinal hairball, which is called as a trichobezoar. And what are the complications of trichobezoar? The important is a halitosis, that is because of fermentation of that trichobezoar or a hairball, leading to putrid smell and significant halitosis. There can be gastric erosions, intestinal bleeding, pancreatitis, and obstruction. So what is Rapunzel syndrome? So Rapunzel syndrome, it is a trichobezoar with a tail extends to the leading to obstruction. So how will you investigate the case of trichotillomania? I will do full blood count and ferritin. That is important because it can be associated with the anorexia, bulimia, and pica. In children, pica, adults, anorexia, and bulimia nervosa. Then dermoscopy, scalp biopsy, psychological evaluation will also be important. And if there is a history of trichophagy, barium contrast need to be done. What are the characteristic findings on dermoscopy? So dermoscopy will show black dots which are due to broken hair. Then broken hair will be at different lengths, irregular lengths. Then frayed hair, that is typically V-shaped hair, and areas of hemorrhage. So in which age group you see trichotillomania? It is usually seen at a bimodal distribution, that is in children. The acute form is more common and it is seen more in boys, while in adult onset trichotillomania is more common in females, and it usually shows a chronic form. Which are the underlying associated psychological comorbidities? Childhood trauma, emotional neglect, adjustment disorder, depression, dysthymia, anxiety, and mood disorders. So what are the histopathological features? So you should be able to tell that there will be more empty hair follicles which are in catagen or a telogen phase. The follicles are usually plugged with keratin debris, giving Swiss cheese appearance, and hair shafts are broken and trapped in the deep follicula, leading to distortion, and breaking of hair shaft leads to trichomalacia and pigment cast. What are the treatment options of trichotillomania? Behavioral therapy, tricyclic antidepressants, then serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor antidepressants, then identification of the stressful episode with accompanying support and parent education and relaxation training. What are the newer therapies you know about trichotillomania? So nowadays N-acetylcysteine is being used, naltrexone is also being used, and aripiprazole has shown good effects in trichotillomania. So once you utter the naltrexone, there might be a question where else you use naltrexone in dermatology. So at least tell Hailey-Hailey disease and intractable pruritus. Coming to the spotter 3, he's an 8-year-old boy, and it's obvious that there are black dots and you diagnose it as a tinea capitis. So which type of tinea capitis is this, and what are the other types you know? So this is a black dot, which is a non-inflammatory tinea capitis. Other types are a non-inflammatory gray patch and inflammatory carrion and favus. So little bit you should know about the causative organism as well as clinical features of tinea capitis. Some of the examiner may ask you about the causative organism also. So black dot is typically caused by TVS, that is Trichopaton tonsurans, Trichopaton violaceum, and Trichopaton sudansi. The hair shafts are typically brittle and breaks at the level of the scalp. The remnant of the hair shaft left behind in follicle appears as a black dot. Coming to the carrion, which is an inflammatory variant, which is caused by Trichopaton verrucosum and mentagophytes. It is an inflamed, boggy, tender swelling studded with broken as well as unbroken hair, vesicles, and pustules, and there is an easy pluckability of the hair. Coming to the gray patch, which is a non-inflammatory ectothrix and caused by Trichopaton verrucosum, Microsporum odoni, and gypsum. And there will be a patchy hair loss, and there is a circular plaque with scale. The plaque is usually dull gray and lusterless. And favus is typically caused by Trichophyton schondleni, and it shows a classical picture, that is a scutula formation, which is a yellow cup-shaped crust, which is very foul, having foul odor, and has a central scarring as well as hair with it. So which are the bedside or lab tests you know in diabetes? So I will examine the patient with the Woods time. I will do KO escape. I will put the dermoscope and examine. I will do the fungal culture also. Rarely you may need a skin biopsy and a PCR. So PCR is done for the screening technique. It's a rapid screening technique and is being done at certain places, like and the two types of PCR are being done. So next question will come as a what do you know about Woods lamp? What is Woods filter? Woods lamp, a light of black light of 365 nanometer,
नेचर का चल रहा है
mercury arc.
नहीं, ये अलग है। आपको देखना है धनराज सर वाला, वो 1 बजे है धनराज सर का, ये हमारा 1 बजे तक दूसरा है।
Generated by high pressure mercury arc and
मतलब हमें जो स्पोर्टर आता है ना, उस लैंप पे क्या क्या देखना चाहिए, तो हाँ वीडियो भी न्यूज़ पे।
So its Woods lamp is typically generates a light of 365 nanometer generated by high pressure mercury arc, and it is fitted with the filter, the Woods filter, which is made up of barium silicate with 9% nickel oxide. This you should know. Then what are the dermatological applications of Woods lamp? Is for fungal infection like tinea capitis and pityriasis versicolor. It is also being used for pseudomonas infection, plasma, for bacterial infections, then acne vulgaris and porphyria, for hypopigmented lesions like vitiligo versus other hypopigmented lesions, nevus depigmentosus versus animicus, for the screening of Ashleigh macule, for hyperpigmented lesions, particularly melasma and screening of capsulomacules, and in cosmetic to avoid the overcoating of peeling solution. If you know about the other uses of Woods lamp, that is what is photodynamic diagnosis. This is a useful diagnosis for PCT, Bowman's disease and solar keratosis. Here you apply a 20% topical aminolevulinic acid ointment, and after 4 to 6 hours, examine under the Woods light. If it shows fluorescence, it is an positive for the malignancy. The Woods lamp is also being used to detection of the burrows, as well as detection of the systemically administered drugs like tetracycline, or a detection of the semen in a sexual abuse by using fluorescent substances. It is also used in photo patch testing as well as accessing the protective value of sunscreen. With the Woods lamp, you can calculate the circulation time of by injecting intravenous fluorescein. It is also used to sterilize the culture media, as it has a sterilizing effect on Staphylococcus aureus and mycobacteria. It is being used for suggestive treatment for warts in pediatric patients, and in industry, it's used to check the fake paper currency or verify the signatures. So how is the wood lamp useful in Tinea capitis? In Tinea capitis, it will, the most of the Microsporum genus will show blue-green fluorescence, and the fluorescence is typically secondary to the pteridine pigment. All the Trichophyton except Trichophyton schonleni are non-fluorescent. What are the characteristic findings on dermoscopy? So you get comma hair, zigzag hair, corkscrew hair, then the typical Morse code hair, loop hair, and coiled hair. And if the infection is of tonsillos, you see more comma hair. If the infection is with Microsporum canis, then the dermoscopy will show more elbow-shaped hair and different height level of broken hair. Like this. This is Microsporum canis, and this is more likely of tonsillos. Coming to the KOA scrape, they may ask you how do you do KOA scrape. So you have to tell that with the help of scalpel or a edge of glass, we'll take it on the slide, put the KOH of 20%, place the cover glass on the top of the slide, blot the excess solution, and keep the slide. After waiting of 15 minutes, we'll place the slide and examine under 10x examination. Reduce the illumination by lowering the condenser, and once the 5A or is suspected, you can confirm it by using 40x. So how to accentuate the visibility of fungi in KOH? One can add dimethyl sulfoxide, then one can add lactophenol cotton blue stain. Sometimes even the Parker ink stain can also be used. Slide is gently heated to speed up the action of KOH, and a fluorescent stain, which is chalcofluor white stain, can also be used for fluorescent microscopy. Coming to the differential diagnosis, which is already we have discussed in alopecia areata. However, the patch need to be distinguished from seborrheic dermatitis, psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, while the carrion need to be distinguished from the dissecting folliculitis, cellulitis, abscess, pyoderma, infected eczema, or a bacterial folliculitis. Why tinea capitis is not seen after puberty? So there is an increased quantity of fungistatic sebum, There is a colonization of Pityrisporum orbicularis may interfere with the dermatophyte contamination, and the thicker caliber of adult hair may protect against the dermatophytic invasion. These are the 3 reasons you need to give. So which investigation will you advise in adult onset tinea capitis? So typically tinea capitis is usually seen in before puberty. In adults, it is seen if patient is immunosuppressed or those infected with HIV. So you will advise for HIV testing. So how will you treat? So treatment, usually 3 drugs are used. You should be able to tell the drugs as along with the dosages of and the duration for it. So terbinafine is used typically of 250 mg daily for 4 to 6 weeks. Itraconazole is used 2 to 5 mg per kg daily for 4 to 6 weeks, while glycofulvin is used in 10 to 20 mg per kg dosages for 6 to 8 weeks. So this is how you remember T for T, that is for trichophyton infection, typical terbinafine is used, and for microsporum infection, glycofulvin is favored. Coming to the spotted 4, which is pediculosis. So what is pediculosis? What are the types and causative agents? So pediculosis is an infestation of the lice on any part of the body. There are 3 types of pediculosis: Pediculus pulmonis var capitis, Pediculus pulmonis var corporis, and Theriasis pubis. Body louse and pubic louse. So what is louse pit? So louse pits is typically seen on the occipital region. It is a suboccipital depression where the louse confines. What are the signs and symptoms of scalp pediculosis? It is usually presented with the severe pruritus of the scalp, papular excoriations on the nape of the neck, pyoderma, oozing, crusting and eczematization of the scalp, and lymphadenopathy, which is posterior auricular as well as posterior neck. What is the telltale sign of infection? So it's a NEAT. Telltale sign of infection is NEAT, is nothing but the louse ache. What are the complications of tinea pediculosis capitis? So conjunctivitis, fever, malaise, pediculid, which is a morbilliform rash which can mimic viral exanthem, occur on the trunk, and plica polonica. The plica polonica is typical matted hair due to pus and exudate. So what is plica polonica? Plica polonica, also called as a plica neuropathica or Polish plate, is an uncommon condition in which hair shaft becomes entangled irreversibly due to the scalp exudate, and it forms a mass which appears like a bird's nest. So the treatment for plica neuropathica involves cutting the matted hair. In early cases, one can try manual separation using organic solvents, or vinegar can be tried. So how will you investigate? So you will do hair mount, dermoscopy, video dermatoscopy available, and psychological evaluation in case of plica polonica. What is the differential diagnosis of pediculosis capitis? So pediculosis capitis, the needs are typically need to be differentiated from pseudoneeds, that is and dandruff, hairspray, white pedra, and monilithrix. So what are the pseudoneeds? They are retained internal difference between live and dead lice. The live lice are typically brown, yellow, oval in shape, attached at an acute angle, has a convex end. Lice is a clear white translucent, attached at an obtuse angle with a planar end. What's the distance of the needle from the scalp suggests the duration of infection. If it is within the 6 mm of the scalp, it represents the active infection. What's the differentiating points between head louse and body louse? The head louse is typically smaller and darker than body louse. Head louse lays 100 eggs versus to body louse lays 300 eggs per day, while body lice live on clothing, especially in the seams of the clothes and in bedding. So what is vagabond disease? So vagabond disease is pediculosis corporis, which is characterized by extreme itching, hyperpigmentation, and parallel scratch marks on the back. What are the diseases transmitted by body louse? So disease transmitted by body louse are 3 epidemic types: relapsing fever and trench fever. You'll be able to tell the of this. What are the diseases transmitted by head louse? The answer is none. What are the various topical pediculosis capitis you know? Topically, one can use malathion.
हे जन्मल्यापासून असतंय पण जेव्हा जन्मल्यापासून असतंय पण जेव्हा अडल्ट होतो म्हणजे ते हार्मोन्स वगैरे चेंजेस होतात बॉडीमध्ये
And the contact time is
एकमेकांना पसरणारा आजार नाहीये आणि काय धोकादायक पण नाही.
then 1% gamma benzene chloride, 10%, and 5% micellar complex. It's acetic acid, citronella oil, camphor, sodium lauryl sulfate. And this treatment is safe. This must be given at. So how will you treat needs after pediculocytes? So needs requires removal and by fine tooth shampooing with conditioner. 8% formic acid and wet the hair for 10 minutes. Drug of choice in secondary infection, it is usually
Mangesh, 8 minutes. Sorry to interrupt you here. Actually, lot of people. Mangesh?
Yes, lot of
Just a minute. Hold on, because there are many people who are not. They have not muted themselves. I'm just announcing that because they are not able to do that. Just hold on for a minute, please.
Yes, no problem.
Actually, there is a request to all the participants who have joined from this link to mute themselves.
I will read the names. Yashashri Rasal, Rajendra, please mute yourself. Dr. DJ Patil sir, please mute yourself.
Host can do it from his side.
It is easy. Just click on the left lower corner. There is a speaker. We have to just click on that.
Admin कोण आहे त्याला
Yes, I think majority of them have muted. So I think they can. Mangesh can start now.
Okay, thank you. So the Septran, how does the Septran work? The Septran actually kills the symbiotic bacteria in gut flora of the louse, thereby interfering with its ability to synthesize the vitamin B, and the death ensues from the vitamin B deficiency. Other drugs which can be used in pediculosis are ivermectin, levamisole, and albendazole. So what are the new treatment modalities of pediculosis capitis? So Spinosad 0.9% cream, 4% dimethicone liquid gel, and 1 to 2 octane is a surfactant. Many suffocating agents are there, and if you know some of the names, that's good. Coming to the last butterfly, that is a 35-year-old female, which shows slowly progressive alopecia since 2 years. What are the differential diagnoses? It's most probably the scarring alopecia secondary to lichen planopilaris, discoid lupus erythematosus, or pseudopelade of Brock. Or the differential can be a central centrifugal cicatricial alopecia, which is seen more in African country, and alopecia areata can also simulate. What is this typical appearance seen in pseudopelade of Brock? So the appearance is called as a footprints in the snow. Why is this called pseudopelade? Because pelade is a name of alopecia areata. It simulates alopecia areata. That's why it's called as a pseudopelade of Brock, which is actually a final stage of several different forms of scarring alopecias, mainly LPP and DLE. So how to differentiate it from alopecia areata? In pseudopelade, there are hypopigmented or flesh-turned alopecic areas which are little depressed, irregular, without follicular openings. While in alopecia areata, you get a round to oval, non-scarred patches of alopecia areata, and follicular openings are present. What are the causes of scarring alopecia areata? So, as a lymphocyte associated and neutrophil associated. Lymphocyte associated is again. Dhanashree ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Balakrishna.
Should I continue or there is a disturbance?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, Mr. Dr. Sayyed, please mute yourself. Dr. Pooja, please mute yourself. Dr. Rajendra, please mute yourself.
Please try to understand. Actually, it is a great disturbance, and people already are like, we have to run the quiz on time. So please mute yourselves, all of you.
Dr. Rajendra, who is Rajendra? Please mute.
And don't unmute, like we are trying to mute you and somebody is trying to unmute themselves. Please remain muted actually.
So
Yeah,
the scarring alopecia.
sorry,
I think-
Balakrishna, you can continue, Mangesh.
Okay, thank you. So the scarring alopecia is classified as a lymphocyte associated or neutrophil associated. Lymphocyte associated is usually LPP, DLE, central centrifugal cicatricial alopecia, frontal fibrosing alopecia, and pseudopelade of Brock. While neutrophil associated are perifollicular dissecting cellulitis of scalp, folliculitis decalvans, and mixed type is acne necrotica, acne keloides, and pustular dermatosis of scalp. So how do we differentiate it from DLE? DLE typical dyspigmentation, subcutaneous atrophy, carpet tuxine, follicular plugging, and perifollicular scale differentiate DLE from pseudopelade of Brock. Further, we can do skin biopsy as well as ANA test and DIF. Then to differentiate from lichen planopilaris, there is a typical bluish hue, acuminate follicular papules, and perifollicular keratotic plugs. Inflammation is typically less obvious in PPB, but it is obvious in lichen planus. And sometimes you can get the typical lichen planus lesions on the skin or mucous membrane. The next question will be, what is Graham-Little Picardy-Loesch syndrome? What are the components of it? The type of lichen planopilaris characterized by triad of patchy cicatricial alopecia of the scalp, non-cicatricial alopecia of the axilla or groin, and follicular keratotic spinous papule of the body. So what investigation will you advise? The dermoscopy, skin biopsy, ANA, and a DIAP test. What do you see in dermoscopy of scarring alopecia? The trichoscopic loss of follicles, white areas, honeycomb pigment network, blue-gray dots in targetoid pattern, follicular pluggings, and then arborizing red loops and red dots with peripilar erythema. So what do you see in histopathology? Histopathology, you see in a end stage disease, you see the loss of follicle and replaced by the fibrous cracks and leaving behind only the arrector pili muscles. So how will you manage? First of all, you need, important is a counseling regarding the limitation of the treatment. Second important is a topicals, either topical or intralesional corticosteroid if the disease is localized. Topical tacrolimus or a minoxidil trial can also be done. Extensive diseases need to be treated with WIC. The systemic treatment includes hydroxychloroquine with oral mini pulse of steroid. Isotretinoin or a retinoid can be used, and other immunosuppressants like methotrexate, mycoprid mofetil, azathioprine, cyclosporine can also be combined with oral mini pulse. So can you do hair transplant or other surgical therapies in pseudopelade? The surgical therapeutic options, including autologous hair transplant or scalp reduction, can be considered for patient with a stable and localized condition for at least 2 years. The test transplantation with approximately 50 grafts can be done prior to larger hair transplant sessions. Coming to the last spotter 6, this boy has the parents are complaining, my children's hair doesn't grow long, my child has never had haircut, my child's hair has an unusual appearance of texture. So what are the pertinent questions to ask such patient? So when did the problem start? Has the problem been present since birth? Was it acquired later in life? Are there any problems with nail or teeth? How does the patient style or process hair? Ask about the brushing technique, frequency of shampooing, use of heat and chemicals, and do other family members have similar findings? So how do you classify shaft disorders? The shaft disorders are classified with increased fragility and without increased fragility. With increased fragility, it can be acquired or a congenital, and without increased fragility, mostly they are congenital. They include woolly hair and uncombable hair syndrome, while with increased fragility, they include congenital trichorexis nodosa, monilithrix, pili torti, trichorexis invaginata, and Tay syndrome. So how to test hair fragility test? We can use a card test and tuck test. So what is card test? You have to place a card near the scalp behind the hair, and one can determine if there are blunt